All right, thank you for staying with us. Right now, we talk about the economy. We talk about revenue generation. We talk about, responsibility and rights. When in Nigeria, when we claim right, so most of the times we don't talk about responsibilities as well. Financially speaking, when you have right to education, good health, good security, there is a responsibility that the law puts on you as well. And it is to contribute your own quota, to development of the society, by extension, the nation as well. And one of those things is paying your tax. You must pay your tax. I must pay mine as well. So there are laws about these things, as individuals, as businesses, as a government, and all of these things. Now, there is a new development, that is the signing, very highly controversial bills, 4 of them, and they have been signed into law with little, review, alterations here and there. Finally, Mr. President has appended his signature and he has assented, and those bills are now act of the parliament to kickstart in January 2025. Now, the purpose of this program is to inform and educate, the general public what you really need to know. What is in this thing for you, and how can you benefit? What does the law expect you to do to contribute your own quota and for you to be part of nation building as well? Now, those 4 bills, or these 4 acts right now, they are the Nigeria Tax Administrative Bill, now an act, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Act, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. All of those things have been passed in the new tax reform that is going on, headed by the highly cerebral, Taiwo Oyedele, and he gave the push. Now it's a law, their laws, an act of the parliament. So we like to look into what Nigerians get to benefit. What should you do? Because the laws are there right now. It will kickstart very soon, but we need to be a part of it, be imbibed in the development. We have with us somebody who knows, a very, very senior tax expert, Dr. Gbite Ademikanra is here with us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Thank you.
And listeners at home, good morning.
Thank you. It's good to have you again.
I'm sorry for my voice.
No, it's okay. We make do with it.
Okay.
Thank you. I remember when these bills were brought up, we had you, that same seat, in this same studio, and you said it's something that we should tinker with. That is something that is worth looking into. And there were agitations, political agitations, regional agitations. Now, these are acts of the parliament, and Nigerians need to be educated. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Let me ask you, broadly speaking, how groundbreaking is this? How landmark are these acts, and what is the need for Nigerians?
Okay, thank you once again.
You're welcome.
You rightly put it right. I mean, you said 2023, in August I was here. That was when the committee was put together by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
2024.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we jointly spoke about it. We discussed, we analyzed. Well, let's also go back to what we said then, for consistency's sake, that it's a landmark. And this is the first time we're having a homegrown tax framework for Nigeria, because before now, what we used to have was the one given to us by the colonialists, or probably the one given to us by the military dictators. They didn't allow us to participate in putting it together. But in this case now, this particular tax reforms committee was set up. This committee had several consultations with several sectors of the economy, and what they were able to come up with a very acceptable reform. Like I said the other time, you wouldn't believe that the Stamp Duty Act was put together in 1939. That was even a cause for us to think about that. Look, why should we be ruled by a policy that was put together in 1939, even before Nigeria became independent? You understand me? So, and you begin to look at some other things, even within the old tax policy, that you have rates, something that maybe when you evade your tax, they may ask you to pay 500 naira. And that will really encourage you to evade tax anyway.
As a flat rate.
Yes. Those are some of the ambiguities, absurdities in those past policies. And so for this one was put together. A lot of people composed were made to be part of that committee. And not only that, after that, there was a series of consultations. And you remember, there was a time when the National Assembly, the northern people came up with this kind of agitation that, look, they won't take what they are giving them in terms of derivation on value-added tax. It took a lot of time before the storm was actually calmed down. And now everybody is happy with the final paper. Though, in a normal setting, a policy of this nature is still dynamic. After some time, you will still see why we need to tinker with one or two of those lines there. Then again, the opportunity for us to have a 6 months period for implementation will give us even room to add more value to the reform. Because most times when you have laws like this, you have an act, you can still come up with some laws, added to what you have on ground to make it more robust. So,
like slight amendments might still be possible.
There could be. So in the next 6 months now, we'll be talking about what are going to be the plans for implementation. How is it going to be? Because later on, when we are trying to analyze further this reform, I will let you know how the government will be able to even get more revenue. Because people were saying probably it was actually enacted for them to raise revenue. Yes, not only to raise revenue. And even if you are going to raise the revenue, these tax reforms has made it possible for some people who have not been paid earlier to pay now, because there are elements of fines in this law, close to about ₦1 million. If you evade tax now, or you refuse to submit yourself for tax assessment now, you can pay up to ₦1 million. Before, it used to be 50,000 naira. I mean, which corporate organization would like to be paying this kind of money now? And on daily basis, you now be paying 10,000 naira if you don't even submit yourself for assessment. So these are some of the reasons why we say the policy now, the tax reform, is a good omen for Nigeria. It's good that this government, the Tinubu, has done it. And I told you then that, look, we need to support this government in this area. If we have been working on outdated policy, outdated laws that predates the part of people like us, you can imagine what that is doing for the economy. It is very encouraging now, and we need to salute the sagacity of Mr. Taiwo Yedele, who happened to be the chairman of the tax reforms and fiscal policy. The committee did well, and for us as Nigerians too, we need to constantly and continually sensitize ourselves on what we can do to make it better.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Gbite. For me, I'd like to take a look at some of the exemptions in this tax, some of the key exemptions, two particular ones for me. To start with, small companies have been exempted. Talking about small companies, these are companies whose annual gross turnover is 100 million naira or below. Before it was 25 million naira. So from 100 million naira and below and on a small companies, they've been exempted from CIT, which is companies income tax. They've been exempted from CGT, which is capital gains tax. And of course, the newly implemented development levy, which is 4% of profit. So this looks very good for small companies. I mean, if you're a small company and you're exempted from these three, it will give you room to thrive. Again, how would government recover from all these exemptions? That is number one for me. The second one I also like you to look at is the one about shares, where they said those who are trading shares, the exemption has been raised from 100 million to 150 million, provided the gains do not exceed 10 million naira. Well, here's a catch for me in that one. Is it possible as an expert, why would you trade shares to the tune of 150 million naira in the first place if you won't even make up to 10%, which is 15 million from it? So do you really see how technical is that exemption there? If for a trade of shares, transactions of up to 150 million, they are saying provided the gains do not exceed 10 million naira. So how does that play? Is it another way of saying, well, I give you this, well, I'm taking it back with another hand? Those two for me.
let's go to the first one that you thrown up, the issue of the exemption. We all know that people like us, because we belong to the same cadre, we receive not so buoyant salary. And most times, they tax us very heavily. And I believe this is good for the economy because it will encourage people to have more money. The disposable income will now be more than what you used to have. And if you do that, then you can divert that kind of money to more investment, because in the economy, it's either you save or you invest. When you have those two components in macroeconomics, it helps, okay, the development of the economic growth. So individuals who have more money in their pocket to be able to trade apart from what they have, because before that would have been taxed away and that could have been taken away from you. But when you now look at it individually, people will say, when you take this kind of exemption, or government grants this kind of exemption, how are they going to get more money? But I tell you, go and do your research. There's a report, Nigerian Financial Matters report or so, that they did recently the past 2 years. It was found out that just 10% of working populace are in that particular cadre of 100 million, 1 million and below. So we now have to focus about the 90% that are earning more than that. And when you look at that, the others that were not exempted will now have to pay more on their own salary or income. In the year 2021, the Joint Tax Board did a report and asked the federal government, through the Finance Act Bill of 2021, that those who are on 35,000 naira and below, or 30,000 and below, should be exempted. You remember then? I was a member of the Joint Tax Board then. I was one of those people who came up with a plea that they should allow states like Osun to be taxing people who are earning less than 30, even if it will be 1% of what they are earning. But later on, when we now realize that there are other ways we can make money, I agreed that yes, these people should be exempted.
Dr. Gbite, sorry to cut in this new tax regime now, I understand that households earning less than 250,000 and below will be exempted completely from taxation.
Yes. No, it's not 250. It's just, the 250 is more like a relief. Okay? Because ordinarily what we're even talking now is 1 million. But you're going to be giving a tax relief of 200,000, and you now be left with 800,000. The 800,000 also is on a zero rate band. That is just the meaning. Not people are earning less than 250. If you are earning 250 as Emeka, if you are earning less than, if you are earning about 250,000 naira now, be ready to pay tax. And you pay it.
Which means that report was report was not correct.
No, that report is not correct as an individual. What the report says is if you are earning less than 800,000 naira annually, and you'll be exempted, not 250,000. And when you look at that, that will come to about 83,000 thereabout in a month. So that's just it. Then when you look at the small companies as well, the small companies, you are saying...
And this clarification of yours is good for proper...
Oh, of course. That's what we said.
Because what Daniel said has been bandied all through the weekend. It has been flowing that, if you earn less than 250,000 as a household or as an individual, then you won't pay anything.
Now, the question is, are you saying as a household, does that 250 mean you as an individual?
No, the assumption in that report, in that particular report, I think it was published by Channels. In that report, they are saying that for a household of 5, they said for the assumption was based on, they brought out that report when they talked about the assumptions that led to the figures that the committee used. So they said for a household of 5, that if 2 of them are working and are earning, say, 120, 130, put together, roughly 250,000 for a household, it should be enough to take care of the household, but they are still poor.
Daniel,
they will not be taxed.
Daniel, you've done the proper analysis. If you come to that, you are trying to put them together. 3 of us are in the house, isn't it? We are earning 83,000 naira each. That comes to about 249,000 naira in a month. I will be exempted as a household. Will be exempted. But what I'm trying to do is, some people out there maybe they may not know the difference between household and individual. What about household that has close to about 6 people, and all of them are working, and they are collecting 80,000 naira. That will come to 480,000 naira in a month. Won't they pay the tax? Now, the issue is that they will not still pay the tax, because that 480,000 they will still not pay, because they are earning.
Because they can't pay as a household.
They won't pay as a household. You pay as an individual, and each person is earning 80,000 naira, which is still under the threshold of the exemption. So when you look at that, I think it's better for us to address our people on individual basis. Than when you earn less than 800,000 naira in a year, forget it. You are not going to pay any tax. And what does that even mean? The minimum salary now at the federal level, 70,000, some states 75, some states 80,000. What we are trying to say is like, look, if you're on the minimum salary, you will not pay tax. And it is good for us, because if the society is not well catered for, the Nigerian Tax Act, that's the first one, which I call NTA, Nigerian Tax Act. That's the one that actually worked on the one you have just spoken about now. You need to let those people who are the lower rung of the ladder, let them stay where, let them live their life, let them spend their money, do not tax them more. But those, now you are talking about the SMEs. You know, you mentioned about the SMEs too. The SMEs, once your turnover is less than 100 million, you are not going to pay anything. And I think it's good for us. You know the catch here. The catch here is that the government is trying to put them into the net. There are so many people that are doing businesses without registering their business. Now, we want to try as much as possible to ask everybody to come and register with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Let us know the name of your company. Please do your businesses, enjoy yourself, but once your turnover is less than 100,000, you won't pay. But once it's more than 100 million, then you have to pay taxes. And let us ask ourselves, 100 million naira in a year comes to about 8.3 million in a month. Most of the businesses that we have in Osun, for instance, the SMEs, how many of them are doing more than 8.3 million in a month? So it's good for us again. Everybody will be happy. They will not run from the taxman. And this particular reform has made it possible also that at the end of the year, you only need to do a return to the Nigerian Revenue Service. And it's going to be a simple return, not the cumbersome that we used to have in those days. You don't need an audit, or you don't need an audited account. All what you need to do is to just prove that, okay, look, I have an account, my account with the bank is this, and my annual turnover as a last year, because you have to do for last year, this year, was about 93 million. So I'm not paying tax. That's how.
It will also encourage them to declare that.
You will declare that. It's going to be a simple return. And that's exactly what these have done this year. And I also want to emphasize that in this particular reform, the NTA, the Nigerian Tax Act, it is specifically stated that no company, no government agencies, no corporate agencies should give contracts to individual. Okay? You will not give contract to individual, and you will not give it to company that is not registered. Because I remember when I was young, I remember my parents and their contemporaries then used to just see in front of their building or their shop, Gbite, Daniel and Sons. No paper. And so if you now go, you do a letterhead, you go to any company like today or by January 2026, you will need a contract, they will decline that. That has been going on. And these are part of
even up till now?
Sure. That brought about this reform. If you see a lot of guys, they collect contract in their personal name. They collect contract in an unregistered, with an unregistered company name.
Not even a business name.
Not even a business name. All right? This one has been taken care of in the Nigerian Tax Act.
Dr. Ademikanra,
yes.
I want to quickly
I want to talk about the issue of the transfer of shares.
Yes.
Please. A lot of people, they trade in, even individually, as a person. I trade in shares. How much do you think my shares will be? That is being targeted at the small share owners Now, when you say companies too, there are companies, there are classifications now. That one is being targeted at the SMEs too.
Yes.
They trade shares too.
So my point here is, if you are saying to the tune of 150 million will be exempted, provided that clause that is my concern, provided the gains is not up to 10 million naira, which is actually less than 10% of the 150 million. So the question is, as a trader, you say you trade shares, fine. Yes. Now, why would you, I'm asking again, why would you trade shares to the tune of 150 million naira and not even be able to make 10% profits?
It's possible. Even you can even trade shares at a loss.
I know.
You buy your shares, it crashes, and you want to sell, it will be at a loss.
But most
times, it depends on the, capital gain tax deals with the purchasing price and the sales price. What's the difference? Okay, if I buy shares at the rate of 150, totality for 150 million, and I needed my money urgently, and I need to dispose all of them, I may sell them for 153 million. And that's 3 million naira again. Why should you tax me again on that 3 million? But what the government is trying to do, or the reform is trying to do, is that, look, if trading of shares is your main job, and you are making heavy money, and you make more than 10 million naira on each sales you make, you must pay tax. But for those of us, you may be pressed. You may be in a tight corner that you need money. And people at times, they engage themselves. Look, Femi, Daniel, I have shares to sell. I need money to do this and that. Say, okay, what's the total value of your shares? Please buy these shares. The cost price as at today, share price as at today is this. So totality, let us calculate. It's about 159 million. Okay, I'll buy it. And when you go to your books, probably you bought it at 153 million. You have made a profit of 6 million. You should be exempted.
All right. Okay. Very well. That's very basic. Now, two questions for me here is, number one, we have the introduction of part of this act now, introduction of development levy.
Yes.
Now, some of those concerns, there were rumors of, research agencies might be neglected, jettisoned, the NASENIs, all of these agencies now. We now know that Nigerian companies, except small companies, will pay development levy at 4% of the assessable profit, that is tax profit before deducting tax, depreciation, and losses. Development levy consolidates the tertiary education, tax, TET, the information technology levy, IT, the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASENI levy, and the Police Trust Fund, PTF levy. So that's the first question. In all of this, now I will say, it's a good day now for some of these agencies that we're talking about, because these companies will have to pay 4% statutorily.
Yeah, Femi, let's look at it from two angles.
Yes, please.
Two angles. I would say, number one, it's a good news for them. Number two, it has really, really reduced multiplicity of taxes.
On whose part?
On the part of the companies.
Okay.
Before, we used to have corporate income tax. We have education tax. You will pay technology. All these NASENI and the rest, there are, there are some percentage attached to them that companies were paying even now. That for the the police trust fund.
Yeah.
I think they were paying, initially they were paying like 1% or so.
That fund, all of those.
Now, when you, as a company, you see all these things that you are paying, 30, 3. Yeah, education trust fund used to be 2%. It was later increased to 3%. Okay? Then all those NASENI things, you now begin to see them, that you have to pay. You'll be discouraged.
Plethora of taxes.
That's what we are saying. That this particular reform has harmonized so many taxes into a single code. Okay? That look now, all what we are saying now is, look, you will not be paying education tax separately. Police trust fund separately. NASENI, which is technology. No.
So they all fall under the development.
They all fall under the 4%. And I'm saying, number one, the 4% is not too much.
Absolutely.
Okay?
That's 4 million out of 100 million.
Yes. But that is even for the big companies.
Yeah.
You guys, you must please go and fact check most of these things. Companies that make billions of money in terms of profit in Nigeria today, there are so many in Nigeria. Some are not in the net. Some they evade. All these ones will now come because there is going to be consequence. There is grave consequence in this tax reform, unlike before.
There's an office of a tax ombudsman.
Yeah. And that ombudsman will actually work for we taxpayers.
Right.
Ombudsman will be the one that will take charge of our complaints.
Oh, okay.
Most times, when you have complaints, you go to the same Nigerian Revenue Service to complain. Those ones that have already assessed you and gave you what you thought will be is a bogus bill. You still go to the same person. The Nigerian Revenue Service is the prosecutor, is the judge.
FRS now.
Yes, is the judge, or at the subnational level, with the State Revenue Service, is the prosecutor, is the judge. And you still go to them
to complain.
And that's what the ombudsman office, ombuds office is going to take care of. You go to them, they don't know anything about the tax that has been assessed about you. But you go and complain to them. They will now take that complaint on your behalf and go and fight it for you at the Nigerian Revenue Service.
They said 14 days.
14
days.
Yes.
Yeah.
For them to resolve
relief,
And the tax people, because they know the ombuds office, they have the power. If you don't listen to them, you may be toying with your job. So they are there to fight for you.
My second question is, what are the gray areas here? Because we spoke to another economist on Friday, and that's Dr. Paul Alaji, who said, very fantastic thing, but he's concerned about the operations in Nigeria. There are beautiful laws and acts. How will make this work? Number two is, he raised that concern that is the operations of these acts now is heavy on digitalization, on technology. Are we there? Do we have infrastructure? When you are talking about having a centralized tax system, do we have the technology to make it work so that there won't be issue at the federal level, state level, local government level? How do we do all of that? Now we only have 6 months to start making these things to work. Are we there? So there won't be just a beautiful bride without a home to come.
Fortunately, I'm privy to this technology, which has been proposed at the Joint Tax Board level as far back as 2020. This chairman of the Tax Reform Committee and Fiscal Policy Committee, Taiwo Oyedele, actually came with the data idea as far back as then, and he made a presentation. What stopped us from, keying into that program then was because there was no enough cash for us to prosecute that particular data idea. It's going to cost, it will cost us a lot. But the subnationals, they were not coming, the governors were not supporting, the presidents as at that time didn't have this idea, okay? I want to assure you that, yes, it will take time. But I can assure you that with the digital access, it will be easy and it will be very good for us even to prosecute. How is it going to happen? The logistics is what we need. And I know Tinubu will back it up with enough logistics. Let's take the issue of Lagos State's Internal Revenue Service as an example.
We have like a minute to go.
Sorry, why are they doing well? It's because the government, Tinubu as a governor, backed them up and gave them enough fund to be able to come up with that digital. To this one, there's going to be a digital asset. All companies through CAC will log on to that digital. And that is the reason why they will be able to track what you are doing. And it will be linked to your BVN and to your account details. So you cannot be able to, they will know immediately, they will capture your, your turnover on daily basis with this digital. And finally, I also want to say that this particular tax reform has recommended, and it has been approved in the act, that all states in Nigeria should be autonomous. See, when you have good environment, good infrastructure, and bad people to prosecute it, you will have problem. So when we have good people, skillful people on their job, in the local government, in the state, and at the federal level, and they are autonomous, things will change for Nigeria.
Thank you very much, tax expert Dr. Gbite Ademikanra. Thank you very much for your time and for letting Nigerians know. Maybe you are saying that good days are ahead. Is that what you're saying?
For the state, and for the federal government.
Thank you very much. We must go. And of course, we have come here to educate, to enlighten you, and of course, for you to know what you are about, to get into come 2026 January. Femi Ojo is my name. May God keep us till then and beyond. God bless Nigeria. In everything you do today, please stay alive.
Absolutely. And don't forget to join us tomorrow for a fresh edition of Morning Spring on Western Spring Television. Emeka Daniel is my name. Do have a wonderful day. Good morning.